So the first component of Flippy Fish that I'd like to touch on is the main menu system. It's not too complex, so it should be quite easy to go through. First button here, we have a start button, which gives you the option to either start a new game or continue from where you left off. This will save if you were playing before, it will save what level you were on and start you from there. We have a level selection button, which displays all the levels in the game. You can choose which ones you want to play. This is just so if you want to jump around different levels instead of playing the strict storyline. Further down we have the instructions, which just gives you a brief overview of how to play the game. Some very basic instructions. And finally, we have the credits, which just highlights every group member's input into the game. So hello and welcome to the game of Flippy Fish. I'm just going to give a basic overview of the core game mechanics. So first of all, you're a fish who needs to make it to the end zone without dying or falling victim to oxygen loss. The way you can move throughout the map is by holding the left click, which will begin to charge up some power. As you can see, the indicator going back and forth or up and down, showing you how much power your jump is going to have. As you can see, if I do a very small jump, I'll only move a little bit, but if I charge it up to the max, I'll do a bigger jump. This is the core mechanic of the game. You can also cancel the jump by clicking right click if you're holding left click. So currently I'm holding left click, and then if I hit right click now, it'll cancel the jump just so I can take a fresh approach. Obviously you can choose which direction you want to jump in. You can even jump behind you if you would like. Another core mechanic of this is the ability to rotate the camera with the arrow keys. This means that you can get better angles, so you can perfectly time and position your jump. You can also zoom the camera in and out to get a better perspective on where you are. So yeah, those are the core mechanics of the game. Obviously the aim of the game is to reach it to the end zone, where you will complete the level. I'll demonstrate this now. Bam, and the level is completed. Core mechanics. Cool, so another core mechanic I'd like to touch on is the oxygen system, which we have implemented into the game. This is denoted by the blue oxygen bar you can see down the bottom here. So what happens is if I leave a pool of water, the oxygen bar will decrease, as seen here. As the oxygen bar decreases, it gets closer and closer to the end, and once it runs out, your fish dies and you have to restart the level. This kind of adds another mechanic to the game where you have to kind of complete the level in a certain amount of time, otherwise you will have to reset. Adds a little bit more of an element of time pressure and skill. So another dynamic within Flippy Fish is the ability to gain oxygen through items. So right now I will show you the sprinkler, which is right there. It will give my fish oxygen and keep me alive. Here's an example of that. As you can see, my oxygen bar gets reset to full. These act as a kind of pseudo checkpoint throughout the game, just to help people out who can maneuver their fish into the correct positions. So along with the sprinkler item, which gains the fish oxygen, you can also gain oxygen by jumping into ponds, which are usually located at the start, end, and at various checkpoints around the map. So example of this is right here. If I jump out, my oxygen starts to decrease. However, if I go back into the pond, oxygen gets reset to full. Easy. Cool, so another mechanic I'd like to touch on is the hazards that are located within the game. These include cars, campfires, and a bird. So in this case I'm going to demonstrate the campfire, which is located directly above me. Now all these hazards cause your fish to die and respawn, which you will see now. So the second hazard I'd like to touch on is the vehicles in the game. As you can see, there are cars driving past here. If I were to jump in front of one, it will cause me to die and respawn, as you can see from that. So the third hazard I'd like to touch on is the bird. There is a seagull which will fly down and take out your fish if you are not careful. The fish is actually indicated by a black shadow, circular shadow, so you know when it's coming. I'll show you that functionality now. As you can see, square circle is there, bird comes down, it tries to pick you up and kill you. There we go. One more example of that. Target circle comes in, bird swoops down. Now that bird will not spawn in when you're in safe zones such as pools of water. Cool, so the final hazard that I'd like to touch on that is located throughout the map is some of the floors are a death zone, so you cannot touch them. So an example of this is the factory map here. The floor acts as a hazard where you can't touch it, enabling a higher level of skill to complete the game, as you have to stick to the crates and stuff. So one feature that we put into the game to add a little bit of skill and a little bit of extra dynamic to the game is bounce pads, which propel your fish into the air to give them a little boost towards the end. These are placed strategically around all the different maps. An example of this is these bounce pads right here in front of the fish. Let's just take a look at how those work. As you can see, they just give your fish a little bounce just to get you over the line. So the next mechanic I'd like to touch on is the checkpoint system in the game. So right now I'm starting from the beginning of the game, so each time I die I will be reset to this position. However, if I were to quickly jump through the game and hit a checkpoint, which is denoted by the floating bubbles, once I hit this checkpoint here, asks for me to refill, but the next time I die I will not respawn from the beginning. Instead I'll respawn from the checkpoint, as you can see there. This is the submission version of City Map Level 2. This is some gameplay footage from the factory level 2. This is the final version of the factory level map 3. This is the final version of the beach map. This level is especially hard, so we'll just play halfway through.